Hey everybody, Adam Savage in my cave with an unboxing with Norm Chan. I wanted you to be part of this because what's in this, first of all, lift it. What's in this is 2,500 some odd pages covering the making of The Shining by our friend Lee Unkrich.
This is the Taschen book.
This is
We've read
the Taschen
so much
book.
about.
And I mean, of Taschen books, this feels like the Taschen book in my head.
Right,
Right, like,
they've increasingly become not book form factors, right? I remember like Moonfire,
Yeah.
even like their James Bond, their Kubrick archives books, coffee table books.
coffee
form
table books
factor.
that are like almost as big as your coffee table. The Napoleon, of which there were two editions, right? A normal one, which I bought, and
Yes.
then like I've seen the limited edition of Napoleon with all these extra fold-outs.
That's what I'm saying. Like with 2001, they did one where they've gone beyond the form factor of the book.
Well, this is that in spades. So a million years ago, Lee Unkrich, director of Coco, Toy Story 3, 2, writer at Pixar, he saw Pixar when he saw The Shining when he was a child, became obsessed with it, and about 12 years ago, reached out to the Kubrick family and said, I really want to write a book that covers in absolute depth how The Shining was made. And they said, that sounds great, but there's this other guy who's already gotten permission from us to do that, and his name is J.W. Rinsler.
Yes, J.W. Rinsler, who was the executive editor at Lucasfilm. He was the writer between all the making of Star Wars books, the big coffee table books that they published a couple years ago. He unfortunately passed away.
He did, only months before this came out, and it is a true shame because Rinsler is a giant of the making of book, right? Like, so it takes so much to go into a production and figure out what to write about, what to tell you about, the stories to bring out. Honestly,
Well, especially for a production so storied as The Shining.
Yeah.
I've read that Lee went to find every person who could you find who worked on the film.
Yeah.
Thousands of
So
hours.
the long story short is that Rinsler and Unkrich combined forces, created a Ultron of incredible proportions, and spent 10 years. They thought it would be a couple years. It was over a decade assembling this, and
Let's
I
unbox
cannot
it.
wait to walk you through this.
Okay. Now you've already gone and read through some of it. And
I have read through some of it, actually. So Lee brought this book here and walked me through it. And I have now, there's a main tome in here that's about 900 pages of material. I'm about a quarter of the way into that, and I'm enjoying every freaking page. First of all, as it opens, I want to talk about like just all the textural aspects of this, everything about it.
Looking at this makes me feel like I'm about to enter a museum, like an exhibit.
Yeah, that's
Right?
exactly what this, you're totally right.
Right?
So a lot of people don't know, but The Shining had a whole bunch of scenes that were shot that didn't make it into the final film. There were subplots. There were all sorts of stuff that were in original scripts. Kubrick workshopped this script for a long time before filming it, and it went through many iterations. But one of the key plot points that was in for a long time was this idea that at a certain point in the movie, a scrapbook appears to Jack Torrance, and as he opens it, and Kubrick played around with lots of different ways in which this could be revealed. As he opens it, it turns out to be a scrapbook, and the original scrapbook is gone.
Okay.
It has been lost. They don't know where it is.
But this is the
This
form
is
factor?
replicated exactly from the pictures that they have, size and
the form of the book is a prop replica.
Exactly. They've gone so far to replicate the marbling, and then every article. This is all printed, matte and gloss to look like it's been taped on. And like I said, the original scrapbook was lost, but they did have pictures that showed them some of the articles, so they assembled some of them.
So these are newspaper clippings that are reproductions digitally of the original clippings.
Yes.
That or the newspapers that they cut up to make that scrapbook.
And it gets,
again, a prop replica.
It gets even deeper in the prop replica. Lee went so far as to actually graphically represent what's on the other side of the newspaper and scan it so you could see the article through the paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, how topical, because we were just at the Oral Hayes Press and talking about the ways that modern printing can add dimensionality and layers.
Exactly.
And also, newsprint.
And attention to detail where he's like, it looks all too clean to me, right?
Yeah,
of course.
Well, it looks smudged and
And then there's a blank spot. And that actually is a theme that continues as you go. you get more blank spots. The idea is that it's been combed over and these spaces are showing. There's Grady from The Shining film. That was one of the articles they reconstructed. And this sort of there's the twins. And this sort of just introduces you to one of the key plot points that doesn't make it into the film. And then this very famous picture, the do not enter Shining sound stages. And then this is, in fact, a scrapbook of photos from the set, starting with Elstree Studios, the entire layout. Almost all of this was devoted to The Shining when they were in full production. Almost every building was being used. And about 75% of the material in all of these books has never been seen before.
And that's from personal collections?
Personal collections from other people who visited set and took photos that have never been published. Danny's family took rolls and rolls of Ektachromes from the set. They started with building foam core models of all the sets. These are all models that allowed Kubrick to work out not just lighting, but lens choices, so that many of their technical decisions had been answered before they arrived on the fully constructed sets.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Kubrick worked out a translation where he was able to take Kodak lenses and then figure out which Panavision lenses were equivalent to that so he could film.
Oh,
yes, I know. I wish I had this. I wanted this picture so bad.
I mean, was it about 10 years ago that
I made this?
The exhibit was on tour. That started in Germany. The Stanley Kubrick exhibit, where they had their version of the maze, and of course, I made my own.
My maze is still touring with the exhibit. And Lee actually helped me. He did supply me with a couple of photographs from the set that were taken by Danny's parents that allowed me to see a plaque that was on one side of the Shining maze. I included that plaque on my...
Yeah, we did the laser cut on the aluminum acrylic,
Pictures of the lodge under
facade,
construction.
Yes.
And so this is an unbelievable resource of just things no one has ever seen before.
Yeah. When those making of books come out, every book, as comprehensive as it can be, is an editorial exercise, meaning the archives are always going to have more. Yeah. It's never going to be exhaustive when you buy one of those books. But this feels like beyond that scope.
Beyond exhaustive,
They're not just looking at what's in the archives. He's hunting down. He's doing the archaeological
Indeed. And actually, as we're wrapping this up, I have a point to make about exactly that, because it turns out the kitchen set wasn't even built at Elstree Studios. It was part of an office building. It was the old art department. I don't know whether that was because of the ceilings. There's your carpet. I think that's Ullman's office. This is Danny's very first day on set. I've been reading about the casting of Danny Lloyd, which was a whole national press story. And this is Kubrick's assistant who traveled all over the United States interviewing hundreds and hundreds of kids. As part of one of the other volumes in this set, there's a long description of meeting Danny for the first time. And he's a remarkable child, a remarkable actor. Here he is horsing it up with the twins on set. Nicholson, Shelley Duvall. Small Polaroids taken, Kubrick watching a take with Danny. I mean, you really, the effect that happens after looking over this, because I've spent several hours with this already, is one that it starts to sort of infect your memory like you were there, right? Like it just gives you this sort of perspective that feels like it sits in your memory. There they are, the twins. Famously reconstructed from a Diane Arbus photograph, the twins. These lovely women are still around. They're good friends of Lee Unkrich. They're apparently hilarious and delightful. So yeah, this is a scrapbook of the entire making. And again, it's hundreds and hundreds of pages.
And we've been on enough film sets where there's where cell phones are not allowed, right?
Right.
And there's usually an official stills photographer hired by the production to create that documentation.
Yes.
But that's a very specific lens. And this is before that time.
Yeah.
It feels like people had their film cameras and were able to document because there was no social media. There was no internet, right? And this is the benefit of that is you get to have these perspectives where it feels very embedded.
Oh, so embedded. And I feel I was neglectful. I believe that the scrapbook is organized by the title cards from the film. Every time there's a title card. Also, there's some wonderful writing in here about why Kubrick loved the title cards. He's like, every title card is a scene I don't have to write where someone explains what the title card is telling me. He's like, there's an efficiency to silent filmmaking that we have lost. And I appreciate that. Here's the snow they're adding to. Oh man. Monday.
And it's everything from the mundane to the technical.
Yeah,
the highly
exactly.
technical.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I can see. Yeah, I mean this
Right?
is a prized possession to just have on the coffee table to browse through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so
hundreds of pages.
of
never before seen photos. Incredible.
Scatman Crothers with an axe in his chest.
And for people who don't know, I don't think we prefaced it. Lee is like the foremost expert.
Lee is at this point, yes, the foremost expert on the making of
on
The
the
Shining.
making of The
And
Shining,
I think this is the very first time a world-class director has covered a world-class director
from his
in
his
this
perspective
format,
and
from
lens.
his vantage point.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's part one.
Okay.
All right, here we go. It's almost like a puzzle box that actually opens here to receive this second part. Again, the same graphic of The Shining here. And this is several small volumes. The first one being, these are, I believe, production sketch. Oh, no. So Saul Bass famously did the Shining
Yes, that
poster.
Yep. I remember seeing the 4 options in the exhibit, the 4
Yes.
compositions
Well,
that he
so
had pitched.
this is a book of stuff that Kubrick never even saw, which is Saul Bass's entire sketching, workshopping, sketchpad progression of how he came around.
Wow, yeah.
Yes, to The Shining, all these different graphical treatments, text treatments, eyes. You can see him sort of the depth in the text being a leitmotif that he starts to follow, the shadow, the shading, the dots, right? And then all of a sudden, when we get finally to the poster, it seems kind of marvelously inevitable, right? This is, again, a behind-the-scenes look of the graphical work that's as deep as the film
True
excursion.
Yeah.
So that's the first
Awesome.
part. Then there is, these are production sketches made for production. I believe it's not known who made these sketches, but these were part of Kubrick's ideation of the
overlook,
spaces,
yep.
of the interiors. It's really hard to overestimate specifically how massive the sets for The Shining really were. They filled entire sound stages. And for Danny's riding around the hotel, Elstree was the only soundstage in England that was big enough to encompass that full ride between the spaces.
I wonder at this stage, is there already a sense that Kubrick is thinking about the non-logical architecture that subconsciously seeps into the viewer?
I'm sure that he is. I'll tell you, in one of the bits that is in another volume we'll cover in a minute, Kubrick has somebody in a helicopter in Colorado filming shots of the hotel they want. And Kubrick is in a room where he has pictures of what the helicopter can see in Colorado. And he's like, I want you to pan left because there's this tree, if you look to your left, that I can see. And I want that in the shot, 10% in front. This is the 1970s. And he has, like, Zoom would have been amazing for Stanley Kubrick. So these are, this is part of the early ideation of the interiors that would end up creating the space for The Shining. There is this is insane. This is an exact replica of every all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy sheet made for production.
It wasn't just the one sheet.
There wasn't one sheet. In fact, apparently they gave it to a typist and just said, try all these different versions. This is every single one except for 2. There's one that we see in Jack's typewriter that they never had a copy of, but this is all work. This is the stack that makes Wendy realize that Jack's going over the deep end.
It's the stack that makes us realize that Lee has gone over the deep end.
I want to tell you that the last time I watched The Shining, I was like, I want these pages. I want them. How do I get them? I will never get them. I was thinking to myself, you will never see all of the typewritten pages. And now I do. Lee made it happen. Yeah, it's an amazing and crazy, beautiful, ridiculous stack. I will now go find the typewriter, and I want this sitting next to it. Of course. The last piece in this middle stack is an unfathomable. Oh no, it's not the last piece. The second to last piece. This is completely insane. This is the actual continuity script by the continuity person on set.
Script supervisor.
So this is every scene that was shot, and many of these are not in the final cut of the film. And this is precisely how it was laid out, taped together, the cover taped with tape that was rotting. But every note about a line change, different colors depending on what they were shooting and when. Kubrick did a lot of color changes for scripts. Annotated notes about who was wearing what, objects they were holding, plus Polaroids.
Paper choice also. Yeah.
Wait, paper choice becomes an even more cool thing in a minute. Plus Polaroids of what everyone was wearing. This is, again, as far as a document that covers the making of a film, the continuity script is like this thing you never ever see. Yeah. It is an insane dive. I love the palimpsests these are, right? With the layers of information on them. Palimpsest isn't quite the right word, but it is like a group effort. Also, I still haven't found the typewriter ball for the IBM Selectric that types in this mid-century, almost Futura type font.
Very much.
Kubrick has a lot of scripts typed in this, and dude, I want this font for typing. That's a normal typewriter font. But you can see that he really apparently he really preferred the IBM Selectric. He was so into typewriters, every time a new typewriter came out, they had to buy it. Okay, so the continuity script. Last part of this middle stack is the fact that the makeup artist on the production turned out to be an excellent caricaturist and did caricatures of all the major players on the film. Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, Scatman Crothers, the actor that played Ullman, Joe Turkel played the bartender, and then each of the crew members, and gave this as a gift to the crew at the end of production. And they include a lovely map for you at the end to show you who each of the drawings is. Okay, now we get to the geeky part. The last part is this book.
That's the book.
And just...
Oh, wow, it feels light.
It feels, when Lee handed it to me, I said, it feels like a Bible. And he said,
it does,
yes, that was our design charge, is that it's a Bible. And look at this object of a book. It is red, it is light and heavy, it is dense, it's almost 900 pages long. And this is I'm this far in here. I've been reading it for a couple of days. This is effectively a day-by-day breakdown of the making of The Shining. All the casting, all the film discussions, the equipment discussions, who was being texted and called in the middle of the night, Kubrick's ideation, getting people on board. I mean, every single day. This covers like almost a year and a half of film production on an incredibly granular level.
Still racking my brain on the choice of this, because when I think comprehensive book, I think of the heavy page.
Yeah.
Right, the glossy page. And this is the opposite.
But they had so much information. They had to go with these very skinny pages. And even though there's bleed through, frankly, the color reproduction quality is incredible. They'll talk about script stuff and then include full renditions of the script pages that they're talking about. I just came across this actually. Kubrick kept on coming up with new outlines of what the script would be. And every time he does, they give it to you as it was at that time. So you're literally living through the progression of plots that they were working through. Yeah, here is the layout of Elstree Studios, and every part was being used for The Shining. Danny Lloyd's family when they were auditioning. And again, more script pages being covered. That's the first time someone drew a bicycle for Danny moving through the hallways. And again, they're like, they knew Danny was going to move through the hallways. They didn't know exactly how. They thought he'd be running, and then someone drew a bicycle. And now, of course, it's such an iconic scene, but that's the first taste of it. Like I said, I'm a quarter of the way through. It's incredibly readable, really, really fun stuff to read and read through. You don't even need to be a fan of film to enjoy the escapade of what it takes to make what Kubrick wanted to be the scariest film ever made.
Yeah, that was his charge, his personal charge. Yeah. Oh, and from a fan of film and filmmaking, it's going to answer a lot of questions that people have. There are debates online, in the subreddits. They look at a photo of like, why was this done this way? Why was this set angled on this way? And the answers may be within.
Well, one of the things that pisses me off as a maker is when someone thinks that their discipline is the only one that is the true discipline. I literally had a package design teacher at the School of Visual Arts say, package design is the only true art form. And it was like, everyone's an idiot. You find your enlightenment in whatever thing you are doing. And there's a lot of talk in film about the translation of books to film because it is a natural translation, and it's also an unnatural translation. Books often cover a lot of interior material, which films are not very good at. But suffice to say, there is an art form that is the book, and there's an art form that is the film. And I feel like Lee Unkrich and J.W. Rinsler have made this amazing thing that dovetails into both. It is a magnificent set of objects that are books about a magnificent object that is a film.
Well, and so much of film, I love that Lee as a filmmaker, his perspective is unique because so much of the making of film is sometimes institutional knowledge that goes away into the ether.
Right. Just for that film.
There's problem solving, extremely tough problem, crashing a train, building this set that is done a day of, that is perhaps very useful for filmmakers down the line and doesn't get documented. And for Lee as a filmmaker to do that for a film like this is for filmmakers can give them so much inspiration. And
this also exemplifies something that I have come to understand about Kubrick over the years. I've been obsessed with him. And that is, he was, as advertised, ludicrously precise in his desires. But that doesn't mean, that has translated culturally to people thinking that he started a film knowing exactly the film he was going to make and then precisely did that. And that is not the case. He started a film wanting to find a film in the material and was very cognizant that he was excavating, that he was iterating, and he was finding the story within the material. That's what this is really covering. And that's a much more beautiful story than like the perfect genius who conceives of a film and then executes it. This is a man who's like not sure he's going to succeed every single time he goes, but it has a literally existential level of meaning to him, right? I make one bad movie, I'll lose all the control that I'm enjoying right now. And this film was no different. I'm so happy this exists.
And I'm so happy you're sharing it with us. Thank you so much, Adam, for allowing me to join you.
Oh, dude, I think this will be a coffee table book at Tested for a long time. So we'll all have a chance to crawl through. I'll bring this back when I'm done. Dude, I'm so glad you were here with me for this.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you guys for joining. See you next time.